Okay, guys, Assassin Creed Odyssey. Been out for about 2 years. I think it came out October 2018, and I've played it a couple times through now, and I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm so biased towards this game because I like anything Greek related, ancient Greek related. But what I wanted to do in this series but what I wanted to do in this series is play through the game and just talk through bits of Greek history and myth and literature that I know or have picked up or learnt along the way. So, word of warning, there will be spoilers throughout. I'll be jumping in and out, forwards and backwards. But so yeah, if you don't want any spoilers or anything, then don't watch. But if you just want to listen to me talk about topics in the Greek world and watch me play this game, then that's cool. And I'll try and talk about stuff related to what I'm playing and what's happening in the game. So for example, I'm going to start by talking about the Persian War as a background for the Peloponnesian War, which is where, you know, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is set, for example. And, you know, I want to talk about characters that we see in the game, like Herodotus. I want to talk about some of the myths that we see, like the Minotaur, Medusa, and, you know, as I'm getting different weapons and armor sets, I want to talk about some of the inspirations and the names. But I'm not going to talk through these cutscenes because these are just nice to watch.
We are ready, my king.
Tell me the naked.
No, never.
I would have liked to have gone fishing with my son. But no. Let us meet our fate. Spartans! Every breath that you have taken has led you to this moment, to where you stand right now! The Persians come to make slaves of us all. I have a better idea. I say we drench the gods with their blood! What say you, Spartans? For our sons! For our daughters! For Sparta!
Okay, so just right off the bat, that little scene where we saw Leonidas throw his shield away. An actual Spartan would never have done that. So this back line here, where every man's basically in a line protecting themselves, that would have been much more what the fight scene would have actually been like. And it would have been big ass shields, every man protecting the man to his left. But the biggest thing here is the fact that Leonidas has thrown his shield away, and obviously it's like for the gameplay and for the dramatics, but for a Spartan, their shield would have been the most important thing on the battlefield, and there's no way they would have not had it. Like, the only reason that they wouldn't have a shield on them is because they're dead. And we actually have a source from Plutarch who's commenting, so he's a historian, and he's commenting on something that mothers and wives will say to their husbands and children when they leave for war. And they say, either come back with your shield or on it. And it's basically because the shields were so big, like they protected the Spartan's body from neck to ankle. And the whole idea of Spartan warfare is something called collective warfare, where everybody fights for the good of Sparta, for the good of his fellow man, and not for himself. And that's why you never see a Spartan fleeing from war or a battle. So this kind of battle that I'm in now, this is more like a heroic battle, and definitely when we move on to that next cutscene where I'm fighting Kuresh or something, where it's just me, Leonidas, and him one-on-one, that's very heroic and something that you see more in Homer's Iliad, and it's just less realistic than what would have happened. So let me get through these and then we can get there. But yeah, this massive battle scene thing wouldn't have happened. It would have been more, get out of here, it would have been more every man in a line, big shields up, spears out, thrusting forwards, protecting their man to the left of them. And it's worth noting that the arrows firing down probably quite realistic from what we know about the Persians. We know that they may or may not have fought with bows and arrows, technically a coward's weapon. I need to quickly get through this. I've never found that bull rush ability any good. Don't really like it. Oh, I think, is this? Yeah, okay, so this bit here is what I'm really talking about. Okay, don't know why he threw his sword. That wouldn't have happened. This here, this one-on-one fight scene between like one hero and the other is more poetic. It's more literary. Definitely not very historical. But it's fun to play, so I don't mind it.
You will fly and you will fail. Xerxes is the king of kings. All will bow before him after I crush you. Come, fool. Enough talk. Time to die. son is more of a warrior than you.
Once I'm done with you, King, all of Sparta's sons will be slaves for Xerxes!
Sparta's sons would rather die! No match for a Spartan!
Yeah, so that kind of one-on-one is a bit more like, you know, Achilles fighting Hector, or the stories that we get of Odysseus, where it's hero versus hero. But realistically, Thermopylae, which is this battle, would have just been a row of Spartans defending against an onslaught of arrows. You know, enough to block out the sun, as the quote goes.
We are betrayed, my king. Xerxes knows of the path behind the mountain. They are coming.
By dawn, you will be completely surrounded.
We are Spartans. When are we not?
Spartans. That word will mean nothing when Xerxes wipes your bloodline from the face of...
Oh.
Today was a day the Persians will never forget. Tomorrow is a day the world will remember.
What a chilling line. What a chilling line.
Finally. Wow, this is big, Layla. Do you really think it's the spear?
This is the one. The book was almost right.
I'm also going to talk over this stuff. I always find this stuff boring.
In my life.
Oh wow,
Okay.
when I have something to
Start
say.
Are you sure we can trust this thing? I mean, the book could be...
Just started, Victoria.
You're the boss,
Fed
boss.
up with you, mate.
I'll prep it for you.
I think the names of the characters that we get to play as is quite interesting.
Okay, so worth noting.
Alexios not as so much, but Cassandra definitely very interested in mythological connotations with that name.
Maximum sensory synchronization if you're up for it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go hard because I'm gonna be talking while I play, and I've died a lot during nightmare mode already.
Let me know if it's
I
too
died a lot
advanced
during
for you. I can
normal
always
mode
change
as
the
well.
settings later. This bit will let me know how much information will be fed to you during your time in the Animus.
No information. It's the way Assassin's Creed Odyssey is meant to be experienced, obviously.
You don't need to worry about me. I've got this.
A little autonomy never killed anyone. At least, I don't think so. Just let me know if you need assistance, and I can always add the helpers back in. Listen, Layla, before you go off,
If this book is right, this spear, this story, it will change everything.
you're putting a lot of faith in a fairly unreliable source. Historian or not, this guy wrote about magical objects.
I do want to
among the
talk about
gods.
He's not
Herodotus
Homer. Herodotus was the first
later
recorded
on. I think I'll
historian,
talk
so there's
about
a
him
lot
when
more
we
truth in that text than
actually
you think.
meet
I
him.
mean, what better way is there of finding
Rather
useful
than now.
artifacts than by trusting in the guy who claimed to meet his
Right
actual
now I want
descendant?
to talk
I
about,
know, but
I need you to trust me.
well, the start of
You
the
could be right.
Peloponnesian War,
This spear, this
looking a
book,
bit
it can only
more
be
at
right.
a
But
war
something
that
tells
happened
me it
before
isn't,
this,
and I'm
the
certainly not
Persian
gonna let
Wars,
Abstergo find out first.
you're right. We haven't got
which
much
was
to
a
lose
series
anyway.
of
There's
wars
just
that
one
ran
small problem.
for
What
about
is it?
half a
This manuscript
century,
is in rough condition, to say the
about
least.
500
The
to
DNA found on the spear has identified
450
two different
BC.
individuals. You're going to have to pick which strand of DNA to pursue. The
Oh
choice
yeah,
is
but just
yours.
coming back to these characters. So Alexios, then, I believe, comes from the Greek name Alexandros. Now, the andros bit means like of men, and it's where we get things like anthropology from. And the Alexi bit means like to defend or block. So with Alexios, with Alexandros, we get this idea that this guy's going to be like a fighter and a protector of men. So fair enough. That's pretty much all that I found interesting about his name. But Cassandra, who is canonically the assassin in this game, I think is much more interesting. So starting off with her name, likely comes from the word kekasmai and aner, which put together means like shining upon men or filling men with love, that kind of thing, which is, yeah, okay. But the mythical background is really, really interesting. So Cassandra, according to myth, is a character that we get in the Trojan War. She is the daughter of the Trojan king, King Priam, and she's got this gift of prophecy. So she gets this gift of prophecy from the god Apollo, who is the god of prophecy, of music, and of the sun sometimes. And Apollo tries to court Cassandra by giving her this gift of prophecy. But Cassandra isn't all that interested. Like, she takes the gift, but she isn't really interested in Apollo, which drives Apollo crazy. Like, Greek gods are not used to not getting what they want, and they're as vindictive and jealous as humans. So this enraged Apollo, he can't take back this gift. No god can do that. No god can undo what another god has done, which is a very important theme in Greek mythology in general. So he can't take this back. So instead what he does is he places a curse on Cassandra, whereby nobody ever believes her prophecies. And lo and behold, she prophesies the entire Trojan War. No one believes her, and bam, Paris abducts Helen and kicks off the whole war. But I'm going to play as Cassandra just to follow the canon of the game.
All right, boss. We're finally good to go. 431 BCE, here we come.
Oh, and I do want to just
Peloponnesian War.
Good
watch
luck
this
in there.
start scene.
No pressure or anything?
I think it's
But we're all
really
depending
beautiful
on
to
you.
watch.
Abstergo isn't gonna win this time. If what the book says is true and we do actually find the artifact, the assassins will finally have a chance to rise again.
You can do it.
Oh, and Victoria? Read the book. It holds the secrets I won't be able to find on my own when I'm in there.
Aye, aye, Captain.
I'm guessing the book they're talking about is Herodotus's Histories or Historia, which doesn't actually mean history in the way that we know it. But again, I'll come to that later. I mean, how pretty is that scene? The water, the sun, the grass. I can almost smell it.
Shitface! Get down here! Cyclops got a message for you.
Tell your boss he can stick it.
That's for last week!
Malaka!
The Cyclops said you like to act tough, so act tough!
Get a little closer, and I will.
You should know by now. The Cyclops always collects his debts.
Oh, those things that are coming up is because I've like
If the Cyclops wants to
bought or
tell
unlocked
him to come here himself.
like
Never mess with the Cyclops!
armor and weapons and stuff. Okay, so let me take you back then to about
Last week,
500 BCE.
this shit happens
Apparently
every
this
week.
line is the voice actor's favourite line. Just a little tidbit for you there. Okay, so
Doing this.
500 BCE. Now, we have this massive Persian Empire
Thanks for the warning.
spreading throughout the Mediterranean, throughout the Aegean Sea,
Ugh.
led by a king, King Darius, who is trying to extend his empire, consolidate his
All taken
strength.
care of now.
But he's finding ruling the Greeks quite difficult, so he's already got control of some of the Greek states. And these Greeks collectively, they refer to themselves as Ionian Greeks. And they acknowledge that they share a heritage, they share a culture. Yeah, and they realize that they're quite similar to each other, and they also realize that they're different from the Persians, and this idea of otherness is quite important in how the Greeks self-identified.
So, what
So-
are we doing here?
The Ionian Greeks, they are troublesome for the Persians. They're forward-thinking, they're non-traditional ideas, and they're not happy paying tribute to the Persian king, to the Persian Empire. So there's a revolt, Ionian revolt, 500 to 494 BCE, where a bunch of Ionian states basically continued to refuse payment
Since when
and
has he had a vineyard?
revolted, you know, as any normal revolt would take place.
So,
Now, it failed,
Marcos,
right?
who owes me drachmae, is
But
buying
it was
vineyards.
very,
With
very
what money?
interesting in terms of the
Where
consequences.
can I find Marcus's new, beautiful estate?
You know the statue of Zeus on Mount Ainos? It's south
So,
of that.
this revolt is very quickly suppressed, sure, by 493 BC. Darius is able to suppress it, but
Thank you, Phoebe.
it's the first sort of major conflict between Greece and Persia. And very interestingly, the massive naval power of Athens, along with another state, Eritrea, send fleets to help during this Ionian revolt, and Darius wants to punish Athens. Obviously, he's probably already looking for an excuse to expand towards the Mediterranean, towards the Aegean Sea, and this gives it to him, really. Now he's got a perfectly valid reason to attack and take over. But he doesn't just like invade straight away. He does ask these states to give him some water and a bit of earth, which I think is probably like very symbolic, definitely.
Let's get this on.
And of course, Athens just does not do this. Okay, so this first Persian invasion then is made up of about 250,000 infantry and cavalry, and Eritrea is very quickly destroyed, which basically means Athens is left alone to defend against this Persian threat. Now they do get help, well, they do call for help from Sparta, which at the time is the most powerful land force, but Sparta are held up with apparently religious festivities. I'm not sure how true that is, and I'm not sure how far I believe that. I think this is a bit more of a political thing, but either way, Sparta aren't there. And we get this big battle called the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC, where we have a force of about 10,000 Athenians defeat the Persian army. They send them packing. And according to Herodotus, so we have about 6,400 men of the foreigners killed, so 6,400 Persians killed, whereas only 92 Athenians died. That's a massive success for Athens, and bear in mind, this is Athens. So we're already getting a bit of a political separation between Sparta and Athens as Athens starts to show itself as a force able to defend itself. Right, so that's the Battle of Marathon done, and the first real sort of Persian-Greek conflict over with. And we get a union of the Greek states. They start to see themselves as Greek as opposed to separate city-states because they've got this common enemy. So we get a strengthening of something called Pan-Hellenism, which is like, so Hellene was like the eponymous founder of the area. Hellene or Helen, I'm not sure how people pronounce it. And so everyone within the Greek states refer to themselves as Hellenic.
Straight ahead.
But more so, it changes really the political landscape of the time of Athens. Athens has shown itself to be a very competent force. And Sparta aren't happy, you know, because for so long Sparta has been this defender of the Greek states. So that's that. Nothing much really happens except, you know, the Athenians, they start to almost create their own little empire of defense in case this happens again, and they start to form something called the Delian League. I'm going to find this Ostraka, which I think is somewhere over here, or not. Okay, I'm going to come back to that. Yeah, so the Delian League, right? And I'm going to go into the Delian League success and failures and consolidation of power a bit later. But for now, we just need to know that that's a thing, that's a force of Greek city-states. And so that first initial invasion is crushed and Darius is killed. Now he is preceded by his son Xerxes, who we had earlier in the little tutorial bit. King Xerxes, King of Kings, he calls himself. And that's because Xerxes has really expanded the Persian Empire. So you can see here what the empire was under Darius and what Xerxes was able to expand it into. He's taken over a lot of states, and a lot of the Greek states are concerned. They're scared. And Xerxes wants to continue the work that Darius has done. He wants Greece. He wants Athens. He wants Sparta. He wants the Aegean. So he launches a second invasion.
Boss, I keep
And a
telling
lot of
you can't
states,
do
you
that.
know, Thebes,
Why? It's
Thessaly,
my farm.
they
I
give
can
in.
plant what I want.
They surrender
Greeks
to
will
the Spartan
die here.
demands.
All of them.
No, sorry, not the Spartan demands, the Persian demands. And Sparta decided to take control of the Greek resistance, even control of the Athenian fleet. Now, there are loads of battles that happened during the Second Persian Wars, or even, I guess this could be considered the Persian Wars, continued. But most famously, I think, is the Battle of Thermopylae, which is the scene that we just saw in 480 BC. Now, we have about 100,000, 150,000 Persian soldiers against a force of about 7,000 Greeks, commanded most famously by King Leonidas. Now, this disparity in numbers needs to be addressed, and the Spartan general, he notices this straight little mountain pass, Thermopylae, where he'll be able to funnel the Persian forces so that the numbers are no longer really a problem. So they march over, they battle at Thermopylae. The battle lasts for about 7 days. But they're betrayed. The Spartan forces are betrayed by Ephialtes. So if you've seen 300, you'll notice that goblin-looking geezer. He, under pressure from the Persians, you know, promises of wealth, he gives in. And he tells the Persians about a pass behind the mountains where they'll be able to get their army through. And so now Leonidas has to make a decision, and he decides to send most of the 7,000 men home, and select about 300 of his finest soldiers to fight and die and stop the Persian advance. Obviously they die, but he's able to buy them enough time for the rest of the Athenians to get back to Athens, to escape Athens, which is useful, which is very a sensible, useful thing. Bought them a lot of time because Persia razes Athens to the ground. It burns everything. Most of the Athenians have escaped by then.
How do you want to handle this one?
So yes. Now the Persian Wars goes on for about 30 years after this, after Leonidas dies, after the Battle of Thermopylae. But it does end. In 499 BCE, we get the Peace of Calais. Finally ends this hostility between Athens and Persia. But Athens has now become a very powerful naval state. They've been building up money from tributes from the Delian League. They've shown themselves perfectly able to protect other city-states as well as themselves. And tensions start to rise between Athens, the massive naval power, and Sparta, the massive land power. And what I want to talk about next time is why that conflict is there and what really sorts of kicks off the fights. So there's a lot of controversy about what really starts the Peloponnesian Wars, but essentially it kind of begins when I think it's Chios and Potidea are invaded, and I think they're part of the Spartan League, the Peloponnesian League, and Sparta sends a force to protect. I think it's Chios. I'm gonna have to check that for you for next time. And that really starts off this massive war, almost equivalent to like the world wars, really, in terms of the known world. But I'm definitely going to talk about that some more next time. I'm going to take the one on the left because of all the travelling and stuff. I don't know why I went back.
Are you sure? Because I'm sure, Marcos.
Everybody benefits, especially you. You've chosen the great Phobos. He's never let me down.
Phobos.
Remember,
I think Phobos is an interesting name. So Phobos is the personification of fear in Greek mythology. It is, depending, the son of Ares and Aphrodite. So Ares, the god of war, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love. But he doesn't really have much of a role outside of, I guess, being Ares' the servant. But I think, interestingly, one of its siblings is Deimos, who, you know, if we've played this before, you will know, massive spoiler alert, is basically the antagonist in this game. So that's that for now. I just want to come up here and show you, you know, do the synchronization and show you Kefalonia as I wrap up. So yeah, I appreciate that this has been a bit muddled. Oh, I didn't need to go that way. But I'm still just trying to figure out what I want to talk about, how I want to talk about things. And I think, yeah, next time... Oh, can I not come up that? No. Next time I'm going to look at what really kicks off the Peloponnesian Wars. So we know we've got this background now of the Persian Wars setting up essentially Athens as a major power, a world power really, doesn't really need the help of Sparta anymore. And we've also got, which I'm going to talk about more, the Delian League, which is how Athens starts to build up her power. And we get the Athenian Empire, the Delian League, and the Spartan Empire, the Peloponnesian League. And they come to heads over, like I said, I think it's Chios, but I'm going to look over that, make sure, Chios or Potidaea, I think it might be both. And it just launches this massive war, 431 Peloponnesian War, which is where we find ourselves in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So, yes, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope it hasn't been like lecture-y or anything, and that you enjoy watching me play this. And it's going to get more interesting, obviously, as the game develops. But for now, we're just going to spend some time here in Kefalonia, exploring the city, finding different things to talk about, really. But you know, if there is something that you would like me to talk about as I play, please do leave it in the comments. Or if you've got any favourite myths or interpretations of myths you think are interesting, I'd love to hear them. And if you know your Greek history and you know a lot more about the causes of the war, I would also like to hear about that too, because I don't know everything. But I think, you know, I've played this, I just want to talk about some stuff. And if you want to watch and listen, that's cool. I would appreciate that a lot. So, thank you very much. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.